Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MSP. This is Ukraine War News Update, first part for the 26th of July 2024. Let's go to where we normally start. Ukrainian General Staff figures for the Russian losses, all the usual caveats apply. You can find them in the description to the video below. 950 personnel lost is a snip below 1,000, so it's dipped back down after having a couple of days around the 1,200 mark. 7 tanks is almost average, 11 armoured personnel vehicles just below average, and 36 artillery systems. Although that's double the average, it's still below where we have seen it recently. So a quieter day all round for those categories, for those losses. 56 vehicles and fuel tanks, very high, but not as high as we have seen. 7 pieces of special equipment, usually lower in that category anyway, so it's easy to get anomalous days. All said and done, that is still a challenging day for the Russians, right? But not as bad as we have seen it. Right, let's go to see what Andrew and his team have picked up by looking at the socials on a daily basis to see what losses there have been. It looks a pretty good day for Ukraine in terms of overall numbers. That's probably a 3, maybe if you take those 2 pink ones off, puce ones off at the bottom, could be a 4-to-1 loss ratio, 3.5-to-1, something like that, is good news. Now, if we look at the combat asset losses, the Ukrainians have only lost 3 there, and the Russians have lost, I don't know, 20, something like that. That is a much better day for the Ukrainians and the Russians. So both in overall numbers and in terms of the more valuable kit, the more military kit. The Ukrainians have had a good day, or a better day. Right, okay, what do we see in the losses? Anything particularly valuable for the Ukrainian losses here? No, not really. Interestingly, a couple of motorcycles on there. Haven't seen too many of them lost by the Ukrainians, which means haven't seen too many used. We have a boat sunk, a couple of damaged, piece of artillery, and then T-64 destroyed. Other than that, that's pretty much it. Now, for the Russians, it's interesting that Andrew has included the helicopter, the Mi-28, that the Russians themselves announced that they had lost over in the Kaluga region yesterday. That itself takes, really mitigates all of the Ukrainian losses that you see there, I would have thought. But we go on, there are a couple of boats and comms equipment. Artillery, usual towed howitzers there, lost or damaged, sorry. Some tanks, range of tanks, T-64s, 80s, 72s, some unknown ones. All of them, 100% of those 6 tanks abandoned or destroyed. And we have just over 50% of the IFVs abandoned or destroyed. BMP-1s and 3s, BMD-4. They're BMD, not BMP, slightly different vehicle. And some APCs, one captured, a Tiger M captured there by the Ukrainians. And tracked, guard and shed based on an MTLB and a Patriot. So 2/3 of those are destroyed, or in that case captured. Then we have some trucks. We have a lot of golf buggies taken out there, 5 of them, 6 of them actually, 5 golf buggies and 1 quad. The quad was damaged, all the others were destroyed or abandoned. So yeah, usual motorbikes listed there and other civilian vehicles. I think that denotes a bad day for the Russians in terms of vehicles, equipment lost, although it's not like they've lost anything like an S-300 launcher or something like that, although that Mi-28 helicopter is, of course, incredibly significant. So I think that's a good day for the Ukrainians there, and a pretty good day in terms of losses, just not as high as we have seen them. Okay, that's the general staff losses. Right, when we go on to look at some other vehicle or equipment loss statistics, we're going to go to the Kharkiv direction, where, if you remember, the Ukrainians started off losing more than the Russians. This is when the Russians attacked over the border up in Kharkiv and from Belgorod, and took out more Ukrainian equipment than the Ukrainians took out Russian equipment, which was to be expected when you're being surprise attacked, even though they knew it was coming, they didn't know when and where. But since then, they have clawed back the losses to the point where now the additions to this particular list are 8 Russian losses to 1 Ukrainian loss. That then puts the total 126 Russian losses to 63 Ukrainian losses. That is exactly 2 to 1. So the Russians are now starting to lose equipment here at the sorts of rates we are seeing elsewhere on the front line. The attack in Kharkiv has been labelled a disaster by most people. I think it is a failure. There is no doubt about that. I don't know what they're going to do with it, though. Whether they continue ploughing in resources to Kharkiv in a sunk cost fallacy move, or whether they cut their losses and pull out. It'd be interesting to see that over the next few weeks. We then go to a bit of news from yesterday that an unmanned jet ski believed to be loaded with explosives and presumably belonging to the Ukrainian forces was discovered on the coast near Istanbul in Turkey. Obviously, something went wrong with this. It lost its communications to the operator and then just floated in the Black Sea to somewhere near Istanbul. I wouldn't want to get too close to that in case it went up in a bang. Nonetheless, as H.I. Sutton here says, weaponized Yamaha jet ski with 2 warheads found on a Turkish beach, likely Ukrainian. Sensible design, he says. He's a bit of a maritime and equipment expert, saying that it looks pretty decent design. But there you go. So that was discovered. Obviously, the shame there is all that equipment has gone to waste. It didn't end up... I'd hope the Ukrainians would get that back, to be honest. But it didn't end up destroying anything, as was no doubt planned. Now, sad news that... I don't know if you've seen the BBC documentary Enemy in the Woods, and it was set in this forest near Sinkivka up near Kupiansk. Excellent documentary that was filmed by the soldiers themselves through their GoPros and mobile phones and whatnot. There wasn't like a camera crew going in to film them. This was done by the people themselves, and then when they were having R&R, you would then get the proper film crews interviewing them and whatnot. It's really well put together. And previously, we'd heard that one of the guys had subsequently died, one of the main guys, and now Vlad, the young commander who featured on it, I mean, you'd had to watch it to know, he's also been killed in battle. He joined the Ukrainian infantry after his hometown was invaded by Russia. Admired for his bravery and leadership, he dreamed of getting his HGV license. He was 19, so he became a really, really young commander. And in fact, I'm halfway through watching another extraordinary BBC documentary called Hell Jumper. Let's find it for you. Now, this is on BBC iPlayer, so if you're from around the world, you'd have to get VPN to watch it. By the way, Opera, the browser, Opera, so if you use Chrome or Firefox or Edge, if you use Opera, it does come with a built-in VPN that you can turn on, just to give you a bit of a hint there. Well, anyway, this one, Hell Jumper, is an extraordinarily good documentary. I'm actually halfway through it. It's of Chris Parry, the guy that I think he's the guy, because I haven't seen the end, but he dies, which you know right from the beginning. He's a British volunteer, and I think he was a guy that was doing some risky evacuations in Bakhmut, and relatively near to the end of Bakhmut, I think he died. His body, you know, he went missing, and it was thought that he had died, and I think his body was eventually found. Anyway, I'm, as I said, halfway through, but already it's extraordinary. And if you are like me, if you've been watching all my stuff, you will know the places that he's visiting. Vuhledar, running through the buildings of Vuhledar, Bakhmut, and you know, eastern Bakhmut across the river. And you know, we if you've been on this journey with me, this will speak to you in terms of what he's doing and where he has been. Really good stuff there. From the Beeb, so check it out if you can. But sad that the previous one, so this was Enemy in the Woods. I don't know if they've got, if you watch this, you might like this type thing. But yeah, Enemy in the Woods is another one you can search on iPlayer as well, which is really, really worth watching. Enemy in the Woods, Ukraine Enemy in the Woods. That's another excellent documentary there that is really good stuff. Okay, Right, moving on. I think that's, yeah, moving on. After the Russian attack of 57 units of AFVs, if you remember at Novomykhailivka the last couple of days, Russians went on the attack again. They threw 3 tanks and 13 APCs with infantry. Today, soldiers of the 79th Brigade knocked out 1 tank and 1 APC, and another enemy BMP was destroyed. 23 Russians were killed, another 29 received injuries of varying severity. Of course, you know, what we don't know from that is whether the Russians succeeded in gaining territory, because if you're attacking with what looks like all of those, 16 bits of kit, and you're saying 3 of them got taken out, then what happened to the other 13? So we're under the impression that that first attack failed, but did that second attack have some success? I don't know. Right, moving on to distance strikes. Been a fairly busy night. So 20 out of 22 Shaheeds were shot down last night. But there's a lot of rumours going on concerning Romanians shooting down Shaheeds on the Romanian side. As claimed, the Romanian air defence has shot down several Russian loitering munitions over the Ukrainian port of Izmail. According to some sources, the drones were destroyed in the Romanian airspace. This is the first time a NATO country has destroyed Russian equipment in Ukraine. Now, take that with a big pinch of salt. Lots of people are saying, you know, what's the definite evidence of this? There's a video where people are saying things that might indicate that they're Romanians who have taken down, or their guys have taken down some drones. But, you know, don't jump to too many conclusions. It might well be that last night the Romanians have finally taken down some drones. We know that 3 drones the previous night fell in Romanian territory, so they have got some good justification for doing this, and then it would be nice if they do that and overstretch to help out the Ukrainians on the Ukrainian side of the river, because the river Danube is like the border there, and as they're striking the port of Izmail, all you need to do is just go another 200 meters and you are in Romanian territory and causing problems there. So it's going to be interesting to see how that develops. We'll keep an eye on that. Now, last night, Russian drones struck power facilities in Zhytomyr and Chernihiv regions, according to Ukrainian. So, of course, 2 of those drones got through, but also the other 22 drones, if they're shot down near to their targets, then they might still cause damage. Just don't know. Certain districts of Zhytomyr region were cut off from electricity. In the morning, the power supply was restored to most people. So good news that things seem to have returned to normal. Right. The big news, a couple of other Russian strikes on Ukraine from the last couple of days. Footage has come out. This is War Vehicle Tracker, who is a Polish guy who reports on both and is not afraid to report on Russian strikes on Ukraine, so that's really useful. He says, I won't go into much detail about what they claim to have hit here, but it may be the plant was used by Starokramatorsk machine building, which used to produce 152 and 122 mil shells before 2022. Seems like they used a glide bomb, like a FOB 250 or something pretty small. So this is a claim that, if we go and have a look at this, according to the source, the crew of the Iskander M OTRK destroyed one of the HIMARS launchers, 5 Grad launchers, 5 tanks, more than a dozen armoured vehicles. Of course that was going to happen. Of course it was. Take that with a huge pinch of salt. There's just a burning building as far as I can see. And Russians hit some kind of workshop in Kramatorsk, Donetsk. So Kramatorsk is one of those ones on the semicircle of towns and cities that sit behind Bakhmut, Chasiv Yar. So Kramatorsk is one of those, and something there has been hit. The claim here is a glide bomb, but then there's a claim of Iskander, so not really sure exactly what the details are going on there. And then there's this other claim, which I think is different, although it's talking... Yes, it is different, sorry, because it's Kharkiv. Russia's MOD claims a ballistic missile attack in a Kharkiv hit a plant repairing military vehicles. Kremlin released a video claiming it destroyed 2 armoured vehicle repair shops. And something's definitely hit there. Quite what I don't know, but they are using missiles to strike more sensible targets than they were maybe a year ago. Like I've talked to you previously, I think the ability to use Chinese satellite imagery is helping them to acquire targets. The Russians are being better at hitting targets. So there could be two, Kramatorsk and Kharkiv, could be two fairly valuable targets taken out by the Russians there. Now, so that's bad news. Now, good news for the Ukrainians. Overnight, Saki airbase was hit by ATACMS again. They're the typical spectrum of what may or may not have been taken out. As a result of the strike on Saki airfield, says Flash News, in the temporarily occupied Crimea, Russian radar was destroyed and 2 soldiers were wounded, according to Russian media. So this is Russian media admitting that, so you can assume that it's much worse than that. In addition, it's reported that the ATACMS missile hit the location of the Russian air defense system 5 kilometers from the village of Shovkov Vichna in the Saki district. So actually 2 targets hit relatively close to each other there. What do we have? So Max 24, take it with a pinch of salt, saying judging by what Fighter Bomber writes right now. So Fighter Bomber is the Russian source that is an actual pilot who is very honest when it comes to Russian losses, usually. The Russians lost a large number of aircraft at the airfield in Crimea during the night, as well as many wounded and killed personnel waiting for satellite images. Now, I don't know that actually a large number of aircraft were lost. Okay, going back to what we do know, no reports saying, according to Russian sources, you've lost a radar system and 2 people wounded with shrapnel. Could be worse. And then an ATACMS targeted an air defense location near the other village, destroying that installation. So various claims going around that reach to both ends of the spectrum. Now, OSINT Technical talks about this and goes to Fighter Bomb himself and the claims there. So overnight, after a Ukrainian missile strike, multiple explosions, flames, and at least 1 pillar of smoke was seen in the vicinity of Saki airbase in Russian-occupied Crimea. This morning, Russian mill bloggers and locals reported damage to the airbase. Now, what you have to know, a couple of things you have to know. A, there were just big explosions. Something has been hit, and it's not looking very good there for the Russians. But you've got to remember that Saki has been hit numerous times before, and this goes right back to before they had the ability to hit with these ATACMS. They were striking Saki airbase with ordnance quite a long time ago. I presume sort of longer distance drones and whatnot. So the question for the Russians is, well, why haven't you protected your assets at the airbase? And this is what Fighter Bomber talks about. So Russian Air Force adjacent mill blogger Fighter Bomber opened with a message of everlasting memory. So when he says everlasting memory, people have died. So and usually pilots. So that's what he says when a flight goes, a aircraft is shot down. Su-25 gets shot down. He goes blah 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 blah. Pilot dies. Everlasting memory. So one would assume pilots have probably died here. It's not a good morning again, country. He says, well, have you deployed the RC-135? So that is, say, the AWACS type airplane. Have you complied with all international standards? Did it help? Everything is exactly as I said. Everlasting memory. In other words, it's just very cryptic, but not happy. He then launched into a longer rant posted a few hours later, bemoaning Russian failures to build proper aircraft shelters. It is necessary to intensify efforts to search for hidden enemy cells and agents around airfields throughout the country from Crimea to Murmansk. It's pointless to write about reinforced concrete construction and the fact that they would have levelled out all the losses over the last 24 hours. We will run out of aviation faster than we can build them. We have an unploughed field before reinforced concrete construction units have problems. We will leave the issues of reinforced concrete construction to future generations to decide, in case they are smarter than us. Ouch. So he, and there's more footage coming out from the base at the moment, the explosions there. So he is not in a good place there. So that's good news for Ukraine, potentially very good news. But we'll find out at a later point. But during the night as well, Rostov Oblast was also targeted. So that's the Oblast, Rostov-on-Don. You've got Berdyansk, Mariupol, Taganrog, Rostov-on-Don. So it's sort of South Donetsk, northeast of the Sea of Azov. That's kind of Rostov Oblast. So that it was given some attention last night by drones. During the night, Rostov Oblast also experienced attacks. Specific details about the targets are unknown, but the Russian Ministry of Defense claimed to have shot down 4 drones. Additionally, there are images of a burning field near the village of Nezvete. there. So possibly something here, possibly not. Now, going back to previous strikes, this is one at Novostopova. Russian S-300B or V system was hit in Novostopova. So Max-24 says a 9C-19 type radar, 3 9A-84 launchers and 1 9A-83 launcher, he claims has been destroyed. Others differ a little bit. So Radio and Nukes has looked at stuff there and says, I can 100% verify that an explosion took place near the S-300V system in Novostopova, Crimea, which is 2.5 kilometers southwest of Jankoy Air Base. Unfortunately, I cannot post the image. So you get publishing rights are restricted on certain satellite images. So you can buy them, look at them, but you're not allowed to post them publicly. The east right end of the long building was destroyed with debris scattered. The S-300V tails look intact. A presumed fire control radar of an unidentified type was parked quite close to the building, about 20 meters from the southeast corner, down and right. It's likely with this radar suffered some damage, but I have no way to verify. No way to know what was inside the building. If the past is a good indicator, it would be a command post. Use caution. This is informed speculation. I've shown the imagery to others in my group. They can verify my claims if necessary. I hate to say trust me, but that's all I can do with conflict areas due to contractual agreements. So he's less charitable on the strike, saying that actually the launchers look to be unaffected by the strike there, and it could have been the building that was being aimed for. I don't know. But anyway, that was a strike from previously. I don't know when that was exactly. Yeah, not sure. But Crimea has been under is consistently under a lot of attention. And I've already shown you that one. Sorry, that's out of position. Or I have another one further up that I was planning on showing. No, it appears not. Anyway, we move on. So then there's this claim. So No report says Russian forces are massively moving equipment closer to the Kerch Bridge. According to Ukrainian partisan movement Atesh, they are relocating surviving air defense system, aviation, radars and military facilities from the western part of Crimea towards the strategic crossing. Partisans report that the occupiers can only cover one area of the peninsula due to the critical shortage of air defense systems. So we have seen this consistent degradation of air defense systems. We have seen them bring air defense systems from elsewhere. There's a claim that they brought the S-500 system down, and that itself was hit as well. And now they don't have enough to cover the whole of Crimea, that they are just focusing it all around the Kerch Bridge because they're expecting the Ukrainians to hit the Kerch Bridge. This is, if it's true, exceptionally good news. It really is. It shows that the Russians are in a bit of a desperate situation. Trentelenko says about this. So he's a guy that's often interested in logistics. So how do the Russians tell their enemies they're going to use the Kerch Straits Bridge for railway logistics after losing their last railway stock ferry? By doing this. So he's saying if you add this together with the fact that the Ukrainians have now hit the 3 railway ferries that they had to get stuff across the Kerch Strait, because the railway bridge, the Kerch Bridge, is not strong enough to take really heavy rail cargo. Well, now they might be forced to do that. So if they're going to be forced to do that, then they need to set up all of their air defences around the bridge in expectation of that. Trentelenko carries on by saying Russian SAM battery, surface-to-air missile battery, and logistical losses in Crimea are such that both are now being concentrated by the Russians around the Kerch Strait Bridge in the easternmost Crimean isthmus. It is the only place Russia can make dense enough missile defences to counter ATACMS and Scalp. We have not seen Scalp and Storm Shadow missiles be used, as far as I know anyway. They might have been used and we don't know about them, but I don't think that they've been used for an awful long time. I've been wondering whether they A, don't have the missiles, B, don't have the planes to fire those missiles, because there's only a couple of planes that could do that, and they've been lost at increasing, over the course of the war. With strikes on airfields, you are going to lose what few aircraft you have at some point there, and then you have to consider maintenance issues. So the flight hours of these older aircraft are going to mean that at some point they're going to be unusable just from natural wear and tear. So lots of issues for some of those Sukhois that release those storm shadows, because they're the only planes that can. Is it the Su-24M? I can't remember. Anyway, they've only got a few of those. Is that the problem, or are they stockpiling them ready for some big attack on something like the Kerch Bridge? Who knows? Right, let's go to other bits and pieces. First thing to note is the rumour that F-16s are flying over the Odessa region from Romania. It takes them 2 minutes to fly from Romania. F-16s fly in the Odessa region every day, solo flights. This is some random Russian source, but they are consistent rumours, these, about the F-16s actually being used. It wouldn't surprise me at all, especially from the safety of Romania, going and doing some little missions that are relatively safe for them to do, that are air defence missions rather than offensive missions, and then return to Romania, get used to operating, and then have the safety of Romania, and then have plausible deniability. Yeah, personally, I think that would be a great move, but is it happening? I have no idea. Right, if you remember, the ex-MP Irina Farion was assassinated the other day. Now, it appears that there's been an arrest of a teenager, I think a 19-year-old, suspected of killing her. There's a press conference involving him. Not many answers so far, but answers could come later. Weapons not been found. Media was showing a questioning of 18-year-old, so really young chap there. Yeah, sad news. And then in Russian-occupied Ukrainian Donetsk, for the first time since the Russian occupation started in 2013, a massive protest with street blocking took place. I don't know if it's a massive protest, but it is a protest. Residents of Kurovsky district blocked Kirov Street in desperation because of unbearable living conditions. There are massive water problems and power outages in the city. Was there not someone turned off a pipe or something that went wrong that meant that Donetsk was not getting water across from Russia as well? There are massive water problems and power outages in the city of Donetsk. That's Donetsk city, not Donetsk Oblast, although it's in the Oblast. In some villages, there's been no water since 2022. In some of them, the last water supply was in June. The locals demand to have it at least once every 3 days, as promised by the occupation administration. So there you go, some mounting issues for the Russian authorities there. You know, these authorities that are either are liberating new areas that are just completely destroyed, or these are places that have been run since 2014, right? And how good's life for you guys? How successful has it been that Russia is controlling your neck of the woods? Oh, okay, you're protesting because it sucks. Yeah, sucks to be you. Sucks to be under Russian control, doesn't it? Anyway, thanks for watching. I really appreciate your support. Please like, subscribe and share. Take care. Speak to you soon, and I might update some of those strikes as information comes out throughout the day.